Good people, welcome to another episode of the All Go Podcast. I'm your host Desmond. This chilly Michigan morning. A couple things to talk about today. First is want to talk about the Tua comments, and then also a kind of outside of the box, maybe not outside of the box, potential name that Penn State should at least give a phone call to. But let's start with the Tua comments. To me, the Tua comments are a perfect example of what happens when players get into dysfunction. And I've also talked about it multiple times on the channel that in general, it doesn't matter how great of a player you are. If you're in a dysfunctional franchise, it's not going to go well. It's just not. Dysfunction starts at the top, and there's a couple franchises that are that I would put in that boat. Mainly the Jets. I think the Saints are in that spot now. The Titans, Cardinals. I just think there's a couple franchises that it really doesn't matter. It's going to be dysfunctional, and you can't win at a high level with dysfunction. But Tua had basically divulged to the media that there were some guy, and he he did not put himself in it at all, but he basically said, we had some player-led meetings that some guys were either late to or just straight up didn't show, and we need more accountability, and it starts with leadership, and that was the gist of the comments, which multiple people have pointed out, rightfully so. It's like, Tua, you're a part of leadership. You're a veteran on the team. You're the starting quarterback. We're paying you $50 million. Like, you are leadership. You are the very people that you're talking about, the very group that you're talking about. So you're in a roundabout way, in a very dense way. You're criticizing yourself, but you don't even realize it, which is madness and crazy, especially when you consider Tua's background. I mean, he played for Nick Saban, who ran super tight ship, had guys media trained on what to say and what not to say. Like, you would never see a guy like Tua, a leader, a really great player for Alabama in the Nick Saban era, have these type of gaffes in the media. Like, they just didn't do it. And players get some money, a whole lot of money, and just I guess think they could speak freely, and he can, right? Make no mistake, he's got that right. But there's going to come with some ramifications. But so, and before I continue on that, then there was a player who was on the Dolphins a couple years ago for a very short amount of time. He mentioned that, not me. But basically said, Tua, you were showing up late to meetings too. And it wasn't you didn't have anything to say about it then. So just an awful look all around. So basically the things you're criticizing other guys about, you were actually doing as well. And I think Tua was right in this regard, that it starts with leadership. I believe it was Wayne Fonts just got inducted to, I can't remember if it was Detroit Lions specific Hall of Fame or honors, or something like an NFL honors kind of thing. But Lomas Brown told a story about Fonts, and basically said, Coach we had a meeting. It was either weekly or weekly at 4:00. And guys knew, do not be late to that meeting. I mean, if 3:55, you're pushing it, right? You need to have your butt in the seat 3:45, 3:40 for that 4:00 meeting. And it's guys knew, you were either getting kicked out of the meeting, getting yelled at. Guys were not late to that meeting. And he said there was one random day, random Tuesday that, it's 3:40, 3:45, and we're looking around, and Barry's not there. Barry Sanders. He's like, Barry's, he's always early to the meetings and so on and so forth. It's like, it's kind of weird. It's like, okay, well, he'll probably be here in a couple minutes. Then it gets to like 3:48, 3:50, 3:52. And like all the guys are looking at their watches, like looking at Wayne, like, oh man, what's going to happen? Is he going to chew Barry out, blah, blah, blah. And I don't remember the exact time, but basically it's like, 4 o'clock hits. Like we're looking at Wayne and like it's super tense and no one's really saying anything. And then, Barry gets there at like 4:05 or something like that. And Coach Fonts goes, Barry, good to see you. We're just about to start the meeting. And it's kind of funny because, yeah, that's Barry Sanders. You treat him a little different. But I said that to, number one, no, everyone doesn't get treated equally. Everybody gets treated fairly, but not equally. And I think it shows the lack of respect that Mike McDaniels has in that locker room. Because I can think of it. I mean, I went to a small Division III college here in Michigan and played football. I would have rather died, like literally have that excuse to tell my coach, I died. That I would rather that than be late to a team meeting, any meeting that I had in college. And mind you, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm actually paying to go to the school, and it's Division III to no athletic scholarships. But like we in the ramifications is like run, whatever. Like coach couldn't fine me. He couldn't take any money out of my pocket. These guys can actually do that. Now, granted, the scale of those fines doesn't always hit the same. I think it's like maybe $10,000, $20,000 you could fine someone through the CBA. So if you're a guy making like Tua, $50 million, right? If I show up late for a couple team meetings, that's less than $50,000. Like that's not a big deal. But for a guy who's making, $200,000 or $300,000, that's a pretty big deal. So I'll be there. But more than that, it shouldn't just be about, well, the only consequence I have is just, losing some money out of my pocket. It should just be a respect thing. Like, no, we don't show up late to meetings. Like that's a Mike McDaniels thing. That's a leadership thing. That's a culture thing that we just have that culture. We don't show up late to meetings. I would imagine the Baltimore Ravens don't have that issue. I would imagine the Kansas City Chiefs don't have that issue. Philly's a little bit all over the place right now, but I still would imagine they probably don't have that issue. But those are teams that have built culture, that have good leadership, great leadership, and that they've just built that. That's the standard. That's not what we do. We don't show up late to meetings. No, that's a joke. That's what joke franchises do. And the Dolphins, you're looking like a joke franchise. Tua did walk back the comments in a very odd way. He publicly apologized, and within that apology said that the media misconstrues things, or sometimes they can misconstrue things, and I don't see what the media misconstrued. You mentioned that. You said that. You said, mention the team meeting, right? Player-led meetings that's something that it might get out that it happened, but in general, that's a private thing. So the fact that the media even knew about it was because of you. You decided to open your big mouth. It had nothing to do with the media. They weren't doing some digging and investigations and, with the Pablo Torre thing with the Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers. This wasn't that. You gave this information up. So don't try to put that on the media that, they misconstrued and turned your words around. No, they actually just put a microphone up to you. That happens to you all the time, and you decided to divulge this information. That's on you. So, is what it is with Tua. Dolphins are a mess. The other thing I wanted to mention was, so we all know by this time, James Franklin has been fired by Penn State. There's a lot of thoughts on it. It was a good move. It wasn't a good move. How could they do this? What could, so on and so forth. First, I saw a tweet, and I can't remember who tweeted it, but it was, some different examples of it working. Like Texas A&M fired Jimbo Fisher. They got Elko. They're doing better. Who was it at? Was it Florida? Nonetheless, it showed multiple examples. I think it was like 3 or 4 of schools that fired a coach, a big name coach, and hired someone else, and it went better. It was a positive thing for them. And they're just like, Penn State is just trying to do the same thing. That's not that big of a deal, which I agree with. But was talking to a friend of mine who's actually an Ohio State fan, and we were talking about some plans, but essentially it got down to the Halloween game. And that is the weekend that Penn State plays Ohio State. And I think her husband's going to go to the game, but nonetheless, we started talking about Penn State and who they should hire. And I hadn't really thought much about it as far as this name, but I've seen some different names, and people are like, oh, well, Penn State should call Curt Cignetti. That'll be the first phone call, and give him a blank check, ask him what it's going to cost. Listen, man, if you think Curt Cignetti is just a straight guy only focused on he's making money now, okay? He's got the number 3 team in the country right now. Curt Cignetti doesn't need you. Curt Cignetti is like the Boyz II Men song, I'm doing just fine. He's doing just fine. Life is pretty good for him at Indiana. It was good last year. They made the playoffs. And he's looking pretty good now. Just beat Oregon on the road. I mean, Curt Cignetti is, let's put it this way. I don't think he's taking that job. Then I saw some things. You should call Lane Kiffin. And I don't know. I think Ole Miss does have some shortcomings when it comes to the NIL, the dollars, the cash, so on and so forth. But honestly, I mean, it looks like Florida might be opening up as well. If I'm Lane, I would rather go to Florida than Penn State. That's just me. But I personally don't see Lane Kiffin jumping ship to go to Penn State. That's just me. I don't think so. So who knows? Obviously, a lot of this stuff is you just never know, right? I didn't think Brian Kelly would leave Notre Dame to go to LSU, or Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma to USC. And there's other, guys that have moved as well. But I wonder if Penn State would call one of the co-hosts of Big Noon Kickoff with Urban Meyer. Now, I'm not saying this is a slam dunk hire by any stretch, but that name came, I thought about it. And here's the thing. I don't think Urban Meyer wants his coaching career final chapter to be what happened in Jacksonville. It was an unmitigated disaster. I didn't think that would work from the jump. And then you're also bringing in Tebow to try to play tight end. It was a joke. But I wonder, there are some coaches that are just made for college. There are some coaches that are just made for the NFL. And I wonder if Urban Meyer is one of those guys that, no, the college is my bread and butter. That's what I could do really well. And I wonder if that's the case. I think regardless of what you think of him, I don't think he's a great person. But as far as winning, building culture, some of the things I just mentioned with, the Dolphins and Ravens and building culture versus not, I think it's clear he builds a culture of competition. He's won everywhere he's been in college. Obviously, I know NFL notwithstanding. And the guy knows football. So I wonder if that will be one of the phone calls that they'll make. I have no idea who's going to even be heading up this search for them. It's so crazy to be like an athletic director. Part of your job is hiring. And that these schools let an athletic director get away with hiring in a freaking these professional search firms to get candidates. It's literally part of your job. You're literally farming out your job, part of your job description. You're farming that out. So some of what you get paid goes to that, and you get to hire on a firm, and I'm sure those firms are super expensive to do that. That's pretty nuts. I think that is, honestly, I think it's insanity, but is what it is. So yeah, I think that could be a kind of outside of the box phone call. Not saying, you hire him on the spot or anything crazy like that, but, give him a call, see if he's interested, sit down, have a couple meetings, see what his plan would be. Hey man, we're trying to be the top dog in the Big Ten. We're trying to win a national championship. How can you get us there? So that is it for me. Appreciate it. Peace.